House Republican, is mounting an effort to make it easier for women to keep and raise their babies after birth. Fox News reports that Representative Ashley Hinson from Iowa is unveiling a bill called the Supporting Healthy Pregnancy Act that would ensure pregnant mothers get financial support from the father even before their child is born. Hinson's bill would require states to establish systems where the biological father of a child is required to pay at least 50% of out-of-pocket costs for medical expenses associated with a pregnancy and a delivery, including health insurance premiums. Single mothers are currently eligible to request a legal order for child support beginning at birth in most states, meaning many are left to deal with the costs before birth associated with the pregnancy. What are your thoughts? Should the father be required to cover those costs as well, or should the child support begin at birth? Call 713-440-8870. You know, Texas
Yes.
already has this.
Yes, of course. And this is
a no-brainer.
And this is a perfect example of why we need women in elected political positions, drafting legislation that will positively affect women in that, yes, absolutely.
Well, she's from Iowa, which already has this too. Iowa, Utah, and Texas have some form of the father having to take responsibility
you
before
legally
birth.
have to request it, and it has to come once the baby is born.
Why? To make sure the baby's live?
No, I don't know exactly. Yeah. Just no. Legal, like you have to request it. And to me, that is more looking at child support than essentially looking at the cost incurred to give birth within a hospital. Hinson, like you said, is from Iowa. She has been very vocal about being a mom on a mission.
She's probably taking a page out of the Iowa book that's already on the books, right?
And I absolutely think that if a woman a single mom or mother or woman goes into the hospital and is giving birth and the hospital comes out to be $12,000, why is she solely responsible at paying the $12,000?
Of course, absolutely.
When it takes two to tango.
Right. Okay, I'm going to come in with, and this is not my opinion. It is simply food for thought. I want to put that out there before I say it because it's going to be very controversial. So then if they are financially also responsible, is the choice of what the mother does with the baby also theirs? If the mother decides she doesn't want to carry a baby to term, is she allowed to do that if the father now is financially obligated toward care too? Does it come with certain rights for the father
This is
that
not
aren't currently
financial
there?
care, though. We're just talking about when a woman goes into the hospital to give birth, should the man that impregnated her, the biological father, the biological person who impregnated her, be responsible for medical bills going forward?
Financial support from the father before the child is born. So they are taking
Correct.
an investment they are putting an investment into the child before it's born. So it could be prenatal appointments, all of that kind of stuff, not just the birth, paying for the birth of the child. It's giving support before the child is born. Once it becomes
the whole thing,
becomes
50-50.
Right.
50-50.
So if in fact financially that's there, then shouldn't all choices for the fetus, for the unborn baby, be split 50-50?
So if it's a late-term abortion,
so
you're saying?
the bill actually excludes abortions. It absolutely
I'm not asking about paying
it.
for the abortion, but I'm saying if a woman finds out she is pregnant and she decides if this law is passed and she decides to terminate the pregnancy for whatever reason, does she have sole responsibility to decide that if in fact this new bill comes into effect that says a man is 50% financially responsible, why are they not 50% responsible for all choices relating to the baby?
Well, that's a moral choice as opposed to a financial.
Exactly. That's the difference, is that when we look at this strictly from a financial perspective, if a woman gets her hospital bill and it's sent to her specifically, then the question becomes, is she responsible
but to Ernie's
100%
point,
of the cost?
Let me ask you this. To Ernie's point, let's say that I, as the father, play this and go all the way 50%, and in the 7th month, the woman decides to have an abortion. Do I get my 50% back if I don't want the abortion to happen?
You don't pay for. You have to pay for the hospital bills. I
Well, it's
read
all
the
prenatal.
bill specifically.
I mean, what about all the prenatal? No, it's prenatal appointments, everything.
You can't get an abortion after a certain amount of weeks anyway.
Right. But I guess the bigger question I'm just asking is theoretically, if you are financially implicated in it now at 50%, should all decisions be 50% man-woman?
Yes. I think so.
That's the thought I'm putting out there because I see
Unfortunately,
this
that is
path
very
leading there.
theoretical.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Well-
the reality of it is most women that are single out there buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's in
On
theory.
their own.
That's very yes. Let's sit down.
But
Let's
there have
make
been
this.
lawsuits where
theory,
the
let's-
father has challenged the mother of the baby deciding to terminate the pregnancy. And so far, the courts have said the woman is in charge of her body when it comes to that, if in fact it's.
Right,
Well,
unless she wants to make decisions
Here's
about
another-
her body.
Here's another fly in the ointment. What if
Okay.
you don't know who the father is? What if the father is earning and I'm the one having to pay all of this money? And then we find out later after the baby's born, I'm not the father, Ernie's the father.
You know, to me,
do I get my money back?
Once again, it shifts all the responsibility back on a woman
Mm-hmm.
in that, well, who is she sleeping with and da-da-da-da. Well, what about a guy who has 12 or 13 kids?
Yeah.
I mean, what about that? Who has, with multiple women?
And I agree right
And
down the line.
the
with
fact
it.
of
I
the
think
matter
that-
is
that
a woman
the
can only
fathers
have, a woman at a certain
can only
point
have so many kids.
can only have so many kids. A man can continue to procreate.
And they do.
Or a mother that leaves the country. You help pay for all of the bills, and then the baby is born, and the mother leaves the country. You don't know where she went.
Right.
Remember, that was a big case. Remember when the mother went to South America, and the father took years for him to get that
Right.
child.
I'm just saying, does this then open the gates again about who has control over the fetus? If in fact you are financially on the hook for the baby or the fetus or whatever, I'm talking about before born. Who has responsibility for that?
Well, it's already been. I mean, the Texas bill establishes retroactive child support from the date of conception.
Right.
So maybe
Okay, so
that's solved by the Texas
we
bill.
received an off-air comment from a caller that says, why is the man paying for child support when the child isn't born yet? And that was John from Southwest Houston. Well, my thought is that in the state of Texas, conception starts at the second the baby, you are deemed pregnant.
Right.
Right.
So, yes, child support should start the second you impregnate a woman.
Yes.
Sure. It's your child.
Right.
Yeah.
If you know
Not
who the father,
after
if
the
you know who
birth.
the father
Right.
is.
In the state
Right.
of Texas, it is, we don't, it is before.
What if I say, hey, that's not my kid?
Well, then we can take tests.
But we can't.
And find out.
Can we take tests before the child is born?
I'm not sure if you can take a
Yeah, I
paternity
think we have
test.
to take tests after the child is born, and then okay, it is mine.
No, I think you can take paternity tests before. I mean, I think they can do embiotic. Here we are talking in an area I don't know the terminology for, but they can do tests on the embryo and see.
No, Espinosa 5616 says paternity test is why you have to wait for child to be born. The child to be born. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's interesting, but there are 3 states: Utah, Texas, and
Right.
Iowa that have some semblance of this already on the books. I
Yeah.
think this representative from Iowa, where it's her
Wants to take
state,
it
is just trying to take it nationally and codify it.
Yes,
she might do it.
713-440-8870. Curious to hear what you're thinking. Toy is on the phone from Sugarland. Toy, what's on your mind?
Hi. I wanted to say that I think that the only time that men have a true say about their 50% is at the birth control stage. And I think that we need to have greater birth control campaigns now. I think that men need to be more responsible for their birth control. And I think that we should have a campaign. We're living at a time where there are more types of birth control available than ever in human history. So we need to be campaigning that because it just seems that adults are not doing really good at being birth control responsible.
Yep. Toy, thank you for that. Whole other can of worms to open there too, as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
If you
I
don't
just
have the
think there's
problem,
a-
you don't have the problem, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my point was just hypothetical about if in fact financially you are responsible for the baby before it's born, are you also 50% responsible for all the decisions made about that baby before it's born? I think that putting a financial responsibility on the father legally opens that can of worms about all decisions that are made where currently, if I'm right on law, women can make these decisions about their own body and that this pushes it into a phase
I
of
think that the
legislative questions.
my thought process is if you can add another layer of responsibility to lessen the burden for a woman who is going in to have a baby that is already going to be, potentially a single parent, and her partner or ex-partner, maybe the relationship fell through, makes a lot more money than her. Why is she stuck paying for the hospital bill?
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. You know,
you're right.
it
Two to
bothers
tango.
me, this financial
There needs to be
responsibility burden.
responsibility on, everybody shifts blame immediately. Well, what if she's this, or what if he's this or that?
Oh, he probably should be. He's not taking responsibility.
713-440-8870. Sean, what's on your mind?
In response to Celeste's comment that the responsibility is always put on women, if the woman chooses to partner up with a bum, then it is her responsibility if that bum guy doesn't pay for anything. I feel like the whole conversation needs to be tweaked because the system is broken, forcing men to pay for child support and to pay for now maternity care. I mean, I understand morally that is correct, but at the same time, if we're talking about freedoms and too much regulation, it's kind of like regulating people's personal lives.
Sean, I'm going to leave it there and let Celeste take this one. I'm going to be quiet.
Sean, I'm not sitting here necessarily saying that, women don't have any responsibility. 100%. But I also think that there are a lot of women out there that fall in love and perhaps end up in situations that if they would have known from the start what they were getting themselves into, perhaps would have made better decisions. And that might have been a decision when they were young. It might have been a decision that slowly after a while has eroded. But at the end of the day, regardless, if you have two people that have come together and made very adult choices to procreate, maybe it was an accident, maybe it wasn't, but now women face major penalties if they try to say, you know what, I'm got stuck with a bum, or you know what, I was raped. They have no choice in what to actually do with that baby. So all I'm saying is that I think men should take on the responsibility. If they are going to make the decision to do adult things, then they need to be the adult and step up and financially support that baby. Not necessarily the woman, but they need to financially support the child.